I used to run Strand Hunter quite a lot. Whirling Maelstrom was great, and paired with Buried Bloodline for Devour, my Beyblades would go around ad clearing for me, giving healing and grenade energy while I focused on other things. But the super has always kind of sucked, and Prismatic exists, so it kind of fell by the wayside. But with Monument of Triumph bringing new armor set bonuses and the full range of different artifacts, plus the brand new class stat damage bonus, Strand Hunter is back in a big way, and this build I've cooked up is the best I've ever seen it. First though, if you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does really help my channel. This footage is from a solo ultimate -30 catch crash, which is an arena activity designed for 6 players. Enemies and champions never stop spawning and you're constantly surrounded, but using this build I finished it easily within the time limit and without any deaths. Okay, I had one death, but that wasn't the fault of the build. Don't you love how when throwing an explosive ball in third person, the game thinks an enemy stood behind you is actually in front? I think Bungie can take the blame for that one. I'll go into each section of the build in detail later in the video, but for now I'll give you all the headline features you get with everything combined so you can see at a glance just how good this is. When it comes to ad clear, enemies are all severed so they deal less damage, unraveled so they take and spread more damage, threadlings are constantly spawning, Beyblades are everywhere, and my ad clear trace rifle has an additional 50% damage buff on top of its perks and surges with practically 100% uptime, and I almost never run out of ammo for it. For survivability, I'm stacking Woven Mail for 45% damage resistance, a overshield additional damage resistance, and a boost to effective HP, and this overshield can be refreshed every 5 seconds. Plus I have Devour up for chunk healing on kills, and as a bonus, while I have Devour active, it gives me an extra 20% damage resistance on top of everything else. With all of this combined, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was regular at-level content. Trust me, without all this stuff up, you get melted in this activity at -30, especially solo when every enemy on the field is targeting you alone. For ability regen, Devour gives chunk grenade energy on kills, sustained weapon damage gives me a dodge every 5 seconds which reloads all my weapons, picks up nearby orbs and ammo bricks, and also fully refunds my threaded spike melee, and tangle cooldown is reduced every time I pick one up, for even more Beyblades. And for boss damage, even though I'm on Strand, which doesn't have access to things like Radiant or Weaken, my heavy linear has an additional 27% debuff from an artifact mod. So that's the build in summary. Now to go through all the details so you can see why this works as well as it does. I tried many different variations of this build and this was the best one by far. For weapons, I'm using the Unsworn Strand Trace Rifle for my main ad clear weapon with Shoot to Loot and Detonator Beam. The explosion from Detonator Beam deals extra damage, plus Shoot to Loot procs from its area of effect, automatically picking up nearby ammo bricks and orbs. This comes from the Sundered Doctrine dungeon, and the origin trait is one of the best in the game, dealing bonus damage to red and orange bars, and exhausting champions, mini-bosses and bosses. I've put an abundant ammo mod on so it fills the ammo meters faster, which helps as we're using this the majority of the time. Energy and heavy weapon are kind of a free pick and can be tailored by activity or champion needs, but for heavy here I've gone with Scintillation, the Strand 3 burst linear with rewind rounds and bait and switch to use for boss damage, which surge and scavenger matches with the Unsworn and also benefits from the artifact. Unfortunately, this is currently only available as a vendor focus from Zavala, and Vanguard engrams are slow to come by. Alternatively, you could run Laser Painter with Focused Fury from Gambit, the only other Strand heavy linear in the game, but again that's a vendor exclusive focus. If you don't fancy either of those, you can just use something else, it's fine. For energy weapon, I went for Graviton Spike, the Arc Stasis combo exotic hand cannon, so if I run out of special ammo, I have an exotic primary ready for effective backup ad clear. But on this run, I basically never needed to use it except for proccing bait and switch on the heavy. Graviton works well as it's an overload archetype that deals arc damage, so also benefits from the artifact. We'll get to that in a second. But in hindsight, for this activity, Risk Runner would actually have been better, as it's also arc and overload, plus gives a huge amount of damage resistance against arc, but that's kind of activity dependent, so I'd recommend either one of these. For artifact, we're using Tablet of Ruin. The first 1 point is Photonic Flare, which is there for Graviton Spike or Risk Runner. Arc takedowns against exhausted or severed targets release a blinding burst for extra crowd control. Almost everything in the room should be severed anyway, and if not, both these exotics are overload, so apply exhaust. So if you get cornered without special ammo, you can blind your way out of it. The other 1 point is unraveling rounds, where picking up an orb of power or a tangle grants strand weapons unraveling rounds, which makes unsworn and scintillation even more powerful. For 2-point mods, we have Vile Weave, where targets hit by tangles are severed. This includes Beyblades, and tangle cooldown is also reduced when picking one up. Horde Shuttle spawns threadlings from weapon damage against unraveled targets, and it also causes threadlings to apply Sever, and because we have unraveling rounds, and Beyblades apply unravel when defeating targets, threadlings will be spawning constantly. The last 2-point is Harsh Refraction, where trace rifles deal a massive 50% more damage against targets affected by a matching elemental debuff, which will be up basically 100% of the time on Unsworn because of all the different sources of Unravel and Sever we have active. For our 3-point mods, we have Particle Reconstruction for applying a 27% debuff on fusion rifle hits, which applies to the heavy linear, so this mod can be swapped out if using a different heavy type. And finally, to Shreds, where dealing sustained damage to severed targets unravels them, and defeating severed targets leaves a hotspot of woven mail on the field, granting 10 seconds of woven mail when within its area of effect. As there will be so much sever going on, these hotspots will be all over the place, so uptime on woven mail will be really high without even thinking about it. So overall, there's a huge amount of strand effects going on with the artifact, which massively boost our strand subclass choices. I'm running Gambler's Dodge to get Threaded Spike back, which damages and severs on hit and can bounce between targets, Grapple for grapple melees as well as move around the field faster. Aspects are Whirling Maelstrom to spawn Beyblades from every tangle, and Threaded Spectre to take aggro from enemies as well as detonate for additional damage and Threadling spawns. And with Monument of Triumph, that initial detonation damage now scales with class stat. I'm running the maximum 200 class stat so that I overshield every time I dodge, so as a bonus this means the Threaded Spectre detonation now also deals 65% more damage and is much more useful as part of our Add Clear kit, especially underleveled. Fragments are warding for more consistent uptime of woven mail from orbs when not within a to shreds hotspot, Isolation to sever on precision hits, and I know this might seem like overkill given the vast amount of sever already going on here, but it's useful for single target damage on enemies not already affected by strand buffs. Continuity increases the duration of our Unravel and Sever, Evolution lets Threadlings travel further and deal 32% more damage, and lastly, Finality, where finisher final blows create Threadlings. I'll admit this sounds like a weird pick at first, but it's there for a very specific reason related to the 4-piece armour set we'll be using, which is the Trepidation set from Root of Nightmares. For stats, I'm running 70 melee, so Gambler's Dodge always fully refreshes my Threaded Spike, 70 grenade, so I get a good amount of grenade energy back from Devour kills, 200 class to grant a overshield on every dodge as well as give 65% extra damage to Threaded Spectre detonation, and as high weapon stat as possible. You want at least 100 weapons to deal the maximum 15% bonus weapon damage to red and orange bars, but any more is good to give more boss damage as well as higher chance of getting better ammo bricks. So I'd recommend Specialist Armour for class and weapon spikes, and hope for melee and grenade tertiaries. The Nezarek's Nightmare set bonuses are the 2-piece Bad Dreams, where final blows against subclass affected enemies have a chance to spawn orbs, and the 4-piece Dream Devourer, where performing a finisher against a powerful combatant grants Devour. And while Devour is active, you have an additional 20% damage resistance. I mentioned at the start of this video that pre-Edge of Fate I often ran Strand Hunter with Buried Bloodline for Devour, as it pairs so well with Beyblades and other strand effects refreshing the timer on its own, but this is so much better as it doesn't take a weapon or exotic slot, plus that DR is a significant amount which you don't get from Bloodline. Now, getting the finisher can be a little annoying as it has to be against an orange bar or mini-boss, and with all the Beyblades, Threadlings and Unravel effects going on, sometimes it can actually be hard to keep them alive long enough, but Grapple is really useful here to close ground quickly to get the finisher. Unfortunately, the finisher only grants 5 seconds of Devour, increasing up to 10 seconds when getting kills afterwards, but that initial 5 seconds runs out quickly, and because you're stuck in the finisher animation, you might not be in a position to get another kill to refresh it quickly enough. So this is exactly why I included the Thread of Finality fragment, so when I do a finisher it also spawns a threadling which immediately targets a nearby enemy and has a very good chance of getting a kill, extending the timer on its own. As soon as I put this fragment on, it made my Devour uptime much more consistent, so I strongly recommend it in this build. Some of you might be thinking, what about Thread of Generation for grenade energy on dealing damage? Well, we don't need that because we have Devour. Others might be thinking Thread of Ascent for weapon reload on activating grenade, but we also don't need that because of our exotic armor piece. I tried out all the Strand-specific Hunter exotics for this build. Sitarachne was pointless because we have so much woven mail already from orbs and to shreds. Moirai was way too slow and clunky just to get a free tangle when they're constantly spawning anyway, and our tangle cooldown already reduces on pickup with Vile Weave. Balance of Power might give extra threadlings to Threaded Spectre, but it actually slows down class ability regen quite significantly. So I've gone for a more neutral exotic that works amazingly well here, Speed Loader Slacks. Speed Loaders give you Marksman's Dodge for free, so this is also why I picked Gambler's Dodge in the subclass, so I effectively have both at the same time. But the best part is that sustained weapon damage give chunks of class ability energy, so while dealing damage with the Trace Rifle, I get my dodge back in only 5 seconds. Because I'm at 200 class stat, every time I dodge I get a overshield, so even under heavy fire, as long as I'm firing back, which the overshield, woven mail and Devour set bonus damage resistance allows me to do even at -30, I can get another dodge back in just a few seconds and refresh the full overshield all over again. Speed loaders have been very popular recently on solar paired with Crackshot, but they are incredible on basically any subclass and on this Strand build are definitely the cherry on top. For Armour Mods, on Helmet I have a Special Finder, a Super Font as my super stat is quite low, and a Harmonic Strand Siphon. On Arms I have Heavy Handed for orbs from powered melee kills, and Focusing Strike for extra class ability energy on powered melee damage, which both count from Grapple Melee and Threaded Spike, as well as a Harmonic Strand Loader. Chest I have Concussive Dampener, Melee Resist, and an Elemental Resist for even more damage resistance. Legs I have Harmonic Strand Scavenger, 1 Strand Surge, and Better Already to trigger healing when picking up an orb. Better Already is great with overshields because even when taking damage to the overshield, your health can still regen to full underneath it. And on class item I have Time Dilation for longer armor charge, Proximity Ward for overshield when doing a finisher, and Powerful Attraction for picking up orbs on dodge. I absolutely love this build and it's definitely going to have a forever spot in my loadouts going forward. Hope you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe if you did, leave any questions in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.